Council on January 28th, 2019. Sorry, we were really chit-chatting here. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones? Mrs. Keller?
Here.
Mr. Browning?
Here.
Mr. Rohr? Mr. Hellinger?
Here.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Here.
Mayor Riggle?
Here.
Motion to excuse Councilman Keller, or Councilman Jones, I'm sorry.
Try to excuse yourself.
Yes. Can I be excused too, please?
No. I have a motion by Ms. Keller, second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Motion to excuse Councilman Rohr.
Well, we don't know if he's coming or not. Somebody talked to him today?
I did not hear.
We want to shoot him a text just to see and make sure he remembers at 6 o'clock.
I didn't even notice he wasn't here.
Let's not excuse him left.
All
Yes.
right. I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay. Tonight's invocation would be done by Pastor Donnie Akers from Eastside Mission Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you will all please stand. Good evening.
Good evening. It's a privilege to be here tonight. Precious Father, we come to you tonight thanking each one that is here. Lord, I've been in this town for over half a century. And Lord, I've seen it grow, and I've seen folks that, like each one that's here tonight, representing our city. They've left a legacy behind for them to follow. City manager, mayor, council, planning, all others that are here. Lord, they do such a good job. We pray for the ones that have things that they want to see done. And Lord, I know that these council folks will make sure that things are done right. We thank you for the privilege to have been raised in the city of Delaware. Thank you for each one here tonight. Bless them in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Pastor Akers. You did? Go ahead. Text him. Okay.
You're
Item
elected.
4 is the approval of the motion summary of the regular meeting of council held on January 14th, 2019, as recorded and transcribed. What is the wish of council?
Move for approval. Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Hellinger. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Abstain.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Abstain.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. We don't have enough, do we?
No.
Okay, they'll come back again. Item 5 is the consent agenda. Elaine, if you'll please read this in the record.
Item A, acceptance of the motion summary of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting held on October 16, 2018, as recorded and transcribed. Item B, acceptance of the motion summary of the Planning Commission meeting held on December 5, 2018, as recorded and transcribed. Item C, acceptance of the motion summary of the Historic Preservation Commission meeting held on November 28, 2018, as recorded and transcribed. Item D, acceptance of the motion summary of the Finance Committee meeting held on July 30th, 2018, as recorded and transcribed. Item E, resolution number 19-04, a resolution authorizing the city manager to file grant applications with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Recreational Trail Program and Clean Ohio Trails Fund for the proposed new multi-use bike path project located on the north side of West Central Avenue between Lexington Boulevard and Houck Road.
I know just one question here. I know there was a question regarding item E on this resolution. This was added at the last week. Did you get any clarification?
Yes, we are going to put in our application that we are going to be continue to pursue easements and letters of consent,
Okay.
and they're fine with that.
The resolution is just authorizing us to file. So
Yep, that's all it
whether-
is. And then
okay.
and then once if we are awarded the grant, then we'll also need another resolution to accept it. So
Okay.
this is just a file.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Browning. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. And Kyle is on his way, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Item 6 is letters, petitions, or public comments for anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward tonight? Seeing none, we'll close it. Item 7 is committee reports. Ms. Keller, do you have anything?
No.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Browning?
No reports, thank you.
Mr. Hellinger?
Finance Committee met. Everyone should have received some additional information from that meeting, and we will meet again in about a month.
There was a lengthy one.
You know, they're all
Good, okay. Mr. Schaefer?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. Yes, we'll go on to item 9. Will please read this on the record? Ordinance number 19-01.
Ordinance number 19-01, an ordinance for Ohio Health for approval of a final development plan for a medical office building on approximately 3.31 acres on property zone B4 PUD. General Business District with a planned unit development overlay district and located at 2295 West William Street, US 36.
Hi, Mr. Repplin.
Hello, Madam Mayor, members of council. This case is for a final development plan for the aforementioned medical office building for Ohio Health. It is located out at the Willowbrook Retail Development, part of the larger Willowbrook Planned Unit Development, which includes the retail component here just west of Houck Road. The site is a little bit over 3 acres, and there were a number of outlots that were contemplated back in the latest changes, which occurred in 2007, which updated this portion of that plan development and the retail component, including allowance for up to 6 outlots. Obviously, with this size of an outlot, there would be anticipated less than 6 at final build out. Again, the site is zone B4 PUD with specific text overlay amended in 2007. Aerial photograph should we need it, but you can see not so much under the red line, a little bit peeking out here, but you can see the bike path and landscaping along Marysville Road was put in with the first infrastructure phase, as was Lansdale Drive, the private road, and a right-in, right-out road here as well. So the plan, again, up near Marysville Road, the existing bike path and landscaping has been put in and remains. There is some room for future expansion potential on this site, as you can see here, but there's proposed in shaded in blue here are the permanent constructions, 10,000 square foot single-story office building and a small dumpster pad. If expansion were to happen in the future, obviously additional parking and probably the dumpster would have to be relocated to allow cross access. That would be determined at a later date. But the access for this facility would be managed and come only off of Lansdale Drive, as you can see here. And the darker green is the additional greenscape elements that would be put into this project as well, including trees. There's a recommended condition of approval of street trees along Lansdale Drive, foundational plantings, and other required elements as well. The applicant has prepared some 3D renderings of the project. This is from Marysville Road and gives you just a sense of scale. Obviously, it's sort of up in the air here, and you're looking down at the roof of the building and back towards Lansdale Drive. This is from Lansdale Drive, which would really be the primary entrance off the parking lot. And then we come a little closer in so that you can see some of the elevations here. They appear a little bit dark here. Hopefully they appear a little bit better in your packet, but mixture of brick and Delaware blue vein stone in the main entrance, a lot of glass, obviously with an office building,
and some metal. The rooftop units would be fully screened, as you see here as well. There is no standalone ground signage allowed with the revisions to the PUD text, but signage would be allowed on the building. And we're determining the exact locations of that with the applicant as we speak. But they are on a corner lot, and so they are due probably at least 3 out of the 4 sides of the building, if not all 4 sides of the building, are due signage under this. They'd be channel cut letters, as you see here on the front of the building. Your planning commission did recommend approval unanimously at their January meeting, and as do we as staff. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions by council? Does the applicant want to come forward at this time? Do you have anything to add?
Good evening. My name is Mike McKay. I'm Director of Design and Construction with Ohio Health. Just quickly, we're excited to continue to serve the city of Delaware. We're excited to expand our services and be able to, this is going to be a mostly primary care site, and adding additional primary care, and as you know, keeping primary care locals is one of our goals. So I'll be glad to answer any questions I can regarding the project.
One thing we know, council, is this is a final development plan that appears through planning and council to be non-controversial. And at least as far as staff is concerned, we would be okay with advancing this to a decision this evening. Obviously, it's at your pleasure.
I got a coffee with him.
Should we take this to one more reading? Yeah, I think we should take this to one more reading.
I do too. Just because it's the first time that it's been seen publicly at a council meeting, and I don't anticipate any objections, but it would just give people the chance to provide some feedback to us.
So it also allows town to meet regarding the repayment on the other property that was brought up. So we've got an email that they want to kind of confirm that everything's going to happen.
Okay.
I have a meeting with Mr. Bunyan on Wednesday morning. Okay.
So if that's okay, we'll take it to the next reading, which will be February 11th, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Kyle.
Thank you. My apologies.
It's okay. That's why we texted you. We figured. We'll go back up and read item 8, which is the 4th reading of ordinance number 18-122.
Ordinance number 18-122, an ordinance establishing the salary and benefits of the council clerk and declaring an emergency. Emergency clause. This ordinance is declared to be an emergency measure necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, property, health, safety, and welfare of the city. The emergency clause is required to enact the changes effective on December 26, 2018, which coincides with the new calendar year and the effective date of the management pay plan for 2019. Therefore, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately upon its passage.
Thank you. And Darren, you sent an email out earlier today.
Yes, you want me to explain it?
Mm-hmm.
For those sorry, I apologize for emailing late in the afternoon, but I wanted to give you the heads up as soon as I knew. When we changed our management pay plan to reflect the fact that the clerk's salary will now be done by a separate ordinance similar to the mechanism we use to compensate the city manager, we were thinking ahead, and so we made that removal from the management pay plan effective January 15th, which gave us time to adopt this at its 3rd reading, which would have been last meeting. So on January 15th, that clerk was removed from our management pay plan. And unless we pass this evening, we won't have a similar place. There's nowhere now in existence to have a salary for the clerk. So kind of like the shutdown thing, we won't have any way to pay it. So if we pass it tonight with the emergency clause, as we always intended, it will become effective now. And tomorrow's check will have a basis. We'll base it on the rate. So I know council's preference is to have everybody here, but just for the sake of making sure that payment is okay, we would strongly recommend you pass it tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions by council? Any motions by council?
Move to approve the emergency clause on ordinance 18-122.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Browning. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for the approval of ordinance 18-122.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Browning. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
No.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Elaine's coming to work tomorrow. Yes.
Thank you.
Let's do city manager report.
A couple of items. As you may know, I testified this morning before the Delaware County Commissioners in regards to the permissive license fee that they were considering acting, and which they did enact, which will provide additional funding for Delaware County for their road and bridge program. So I testified today, and Bill Farino provided comments on Thursday, the upshot of which was just to consider acknowledging the partnership we have with Delaware County and how important that is in terms of Sawmill Parkway and the other projects they provide funding for, but to also recognize that the project, the Point project, which we've formally requested funding for, and consideration that they look at their current grant program they provide to localities, the OPWC program, and regionally significant projects like the Point, and consider some additional funding for those projects. So I think we're on the record in that regard. They did move ahead and adopt on a 3-0 vote the resolution, which means that beginning on January 1st, 2020, motor vehicle registrations in Delaware County will go up by additional $5, which will yield about $1 million for Delaware County for their road program. There's no doubt that there's a need for that. We have a need as well. And I pointed out that the city actually had made this request in 2011. You may recall, after the local government fund was cut in half before the Senate Finance Committee, I testified that one of the ways to mitigate that was to provide this permissive authority to localities, both cities, counties, townships, and villages. The counties were fortunate, and they got that last year, so hopefully in 2019, that same type of authority will be provided to communities like Delaware. So that was this morning.
For a second, I thought it capped at 25. There's no way we can get it.
It does, but my understanding is the cap gets increased if they raise it another $5. So that was not as much of a concern. But I did point out that the county already has authority under a permissive fee, under the permissive fee statute that they could enact, which would apply to Delaware, it would not apply to Powell or Westerville, because we already are at our maximum. But that, I just pointed that out and indicated that that's another vehicle they have. But anyway, they did adopt it, and hopefully we can have some follow-up conversations with Delaware County in regards to further participation on regionally significant projects such as the Point. The other thing real quickly, there is a Sustainable Delaware Working Summit this Saturday. I'll send some information out about it. There was a Facebook post this morning. This is a second part of the summit that they had last year. I think it's titled Towards a Greener Delaware. They're looking at steps that the city can take to demonstrate our objectives to sustainability. So that's something that will be at Stratford Ecological Center. They have a whole day's lineup of speakers, and I'll provide some additional information for you. In view of the weather, the impending cold temperatures that are supposed to come into this region sometime tomorrow, Bill Farino has indicated that there may be a need to go to a Saturday refuse schedule, in as much as if we have temperatures as low as 20 below zero, it's in our best interest probably not to have our refuse workers out at that time. So they will be making arrangements. We'll make the call tomorrow depending on the weather. So that's something that I wanted to make you aware of. The Main Street request regarding the former engineering building, I have provided you. I will be following up, and we do probably need to get that on a future council agenda just for some feedback from council as to how we want to address that. Regarding meetings, I met with Liz Zingali last week. She is the new executive director at the Delaware County Community Center YMCA. Prior to my meeting, there was a meeting with Councilwoman Keller and Councilman Hellinger. They can report on that regarding the management services agreement. But I had a very good meeting with Liz Zingali, and we intend to kind of meet on a regular basis. So that went well. And that is a Public Works Committee meeting. There's nothing right now in terms of public utilities or public works that requires any action. I don't know if there's still an interest. I know Chris is on that committee. I believe Jim and Councilman Hellinger. Bill, I don't know if there's anything, do you want to, I know we didn't have the last meeting, we pushed it back. There are some transportation updates, but nothing.
There's nothing critical that we need to provide to get resolutions or actions on. We can provide updates, written updates, or email updates regarding where we are with programs, SALT, things like that, or we can hold a meeting if you have topics you'd like to speak about.
Yeah, I'm fine with pushing it until we have more agenda.
Okay. That's what I have.
Yeah, okay. Council comments, Mrs. Keller?
So I guess we should have updated about the YMCA meeting. It slipped my mind.
That's okay, it's council meeting, your comments.
So Councilman Hellinger and I did meet with YMCA representatives. We met for several hours,
2 full hours.
presented some concerns. They, I thought, were very receptive to those concerns, and I think with the new addition of the executive director on site at the Delaware Y, that a lot of these concerns will be taken care of in a more direct way. And we have a meeting, another meeting scheduled April.
Yeah.
The 20, we have a follow-up meeting in April, where we're going to be more on top of some of the things that we just let go for too long, so that we can get more periodic updates on some of the issues that were of concern to us.
Lisa and George, do you have any idea what the people in the swim meets, what they were paying per year? I mean, I had somebody, I was at a wrestling meet on Saturday, and this lady just talked my ear off that they were paying more than $1,000.
That's what we've been told.
And that the money wasn't staying here in Delaware, which is not what I was told. I told it was, she's told it's not. And now that there's another swim group started that's swimming at Mount Carmel, and a lot of these kids are leaving to go there. Do you know anything about this?
That happened, I think, the next day, the advertisement of that alternate swim team. So we didn't really cover a whole lot about the swim. We did discuss the actual fees that members are paying, and they did a pricing study that they're basing all of these pricing decisions off of. We've requested a copy of that pricing study, and we're going to be talking at our April meeting more closely about the actual pricing, but we need to look at their study and understand how they rated different things. What they're telling us is it depends on the number of swimmers, the number of lanes used, the number of coaches needed, and it's all put into this formula, but we've asked to see that.
I know when Tom and I met with the director and Matt,
George, yeah.
The money is all staying here in Delaware, it's not leaving, and then this lady, totally different. So I don't know, a lot of rumors going on. So, okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Mr. Brown?
Got 2 things. The with respect to Councilwoman Keller, January 30th at 6 p.m. The introduction of the executive director at Second Ward Community Center. That's going to be happening at Ross Street there. And then February 5th, the Liberty Casting is going to do a presentation with the Sustainable Delaware at the Entrepreneurial Center.
Yeah, this is a follow-up. That was a request that we try to facilitate a meeting, and we were able to get them together.
What time is that?
That one's I want to say it's 7:30. Let me just check.
We can send it out. We'll put that in a
The
calendar invite.
Entrepreneurial Center, the one
Over
in
here in
Sandusky?
Ohio Wesleyan.
Okay.
Yeah.
7:30. Yes, 70 South Sandusky.
7:30?
Yep.
Great, thank you.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing, thank you.
Nothing? Mr. Hellinger?
Only thing I have is Bill was kind enough to allow me to ride along with one of his plow drivers here a week or so ago. We had that snow event. and spent about a little bit over 8 hours in the cab with the guy. And I would really encourage everyone, if you have another event, and you don't have to spend 8 hours, but I think the longer you spend, the more appreciation you get, because it's easy to go in there and jump in for an hour or two. But it really gives you a different perspective of what, these plow drivers have to put up with, and hear about the kids making the snow forts. And sure enough, we saw several kids making snow forts along the side of the road. And, those guys have to be aware of, geez, are there kids in there, and different things like that. So it was a very good opportunity. I would encourage everyone to take advantage of that at some point in the future.
I've done it, it's fun. But I bet after 8 hours, you were beat up the next day.
Yeah. It makes for a long day.
Thank you. Mr. Shaver?
Just one. Since I've been on council, I've been pretty consistently impressed with the quality of our staff. And there's an incident that happened a week or so ago. I don't remember the exact date that I kind of want to relate to everybody. I was out of state, got a call from the citizen regarding an employee there with a medical emergency. Kind of give you the Reader's Digest version. This person had a stroke, was taken to Grady. Grady recommended they go to Riverside. They decided to walk away. This person found their employee walking down the street, kind of not really sure where they were going, brought them back to Grady. The person refused to get out of the car and go in and get service. I called the fire chief at home. He dropped what he was doing, put his uniform on, called the police department, the fire department, sent a squad and officers down there, and eventually, through much persuasion, was able to get this guy transferred to Riverside and getting treated. So thanks to the chief and all of them were involved, but it's just one more example that we're constantly faced with how dedicated the people on our staff are to our citizens. So I just want to give a hats off and a thank you to everybody involved in that.
It's wonderful, thank you. Well, I'd just like to give kudos to the staff that took care of our roads. I mean, they were unbelievable come Sunday. And I talked to someone else and they said they had pulled their guys off of the road Saturday night because it was the worst they had ever seen. The snow and the blowing, people that were supposed to be traveling north ended up in the southbound lane, and I don't know, the guys did 12 hours and they're riding in those trucks, and it was pretty remarkable. They were tired. I went out each day to see them at 7 o'clock when they changed shifts, but they did a great job. So
I think you made them food, didn't you?
yeah, I did, but that's
So props to Mayor Riggle for making the staff food.
got to keep feeding them so they'll keep going and keeping our roads good. So, and with that, we will look to go into executive session. Is there a motion?
I move to go into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the reasons stated on the agenda.
Perfect. Is there a second? Motion by Ms. Keller, second by Mr. Brown. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. So we'll meet across the hall while they rearrange this room.